Hey guys, Footy Focus Podcast, episode 2. We are recording, Thursday, June 4. So we're a week away from the footy season resuming. So how do you feel about that, Jahan?
Yeah, I'm very excited. So
Christmas?
we're back. We stopped the Skype recording because we did one before for the first one of the year, and the sound quality was a little bit iffy. So now we're back in your studio here. Soundproof studio, yeah.
We've been moved by my wife's office. We've been shunned to the edge of the dining room table.
It's exciting. Footy's back. No crowd still, but it's going to give us something to talk about and something to do.
Are you looking forward to next Thursday more than you do Christmas or your birthday or
I think the AFL draft obviously comes first.
The draft, okay, yeah.
And then Christmas.
We'll talk about the draft a bit later on. You've got some
recaps.
I
had some time to watch the under-17s futures game from last year, so that was good. We'll talk a bit about that later on.
So we'll kick off just about the thoughts about the hub system and the testing protocols and I guess the date to restart. Because obviously the first episode we did, I guess one of the questions we had was if someone tests positive, does the whole thing get shut down? So that's kind of been answered. I think
how?
Every player is getting tested twice a week.
Twice a week, yeah.
If a player does test positive, they're not going to shut the whole thing down.
What are they going to do?
I think that club would just get shut down for a little bit. So it won't shut the whole thing down. They're doing something similar in the NBA as well, because that's a really big issue. If you're going to spend all this money on a hub and then just one player test positive, the whole thing gets shut down. And I think before the competition resumed, I think all the Vic players went to Marvel Stadium to do the test as well. And no one tested positive, which is...
Yeah, so I think that's expected. We're getting like half a dozen to 30 cases a day in Australia. So at the low chance a player does get tested positive, I'm sure the AFL have protocols and things they follow to maintain the fixture still go through, and with that, one or two clubs shut down.
Yeah, that's, I guess, the purpose of the hubs. The 3 to 4 hubs are all in places where the cases are relatively low. There's obviously no matches in the heart of where, I guess, the coronavirus is happening, like Brisbane, where else is there? Geelong, all those places, it's relatively safe. So I guess we'll see how it goes anyway.
So with the hub, so it's the Western Australian and South Australian teams that have to relocate because their states have been more strict with their border controls and things like that. So that's pretty much because of the premiers. They're being extra conservative, I suppose. Like if they really wanted to, they probably could open it up to teams travelling in and playing.
Well, it was going to be even more conservative because the showdown Port Crows next week, that wasn't meant to happen. There wasn't going to be any games in South Australia, but they did relax it for a week, so they're home obviously for next week, and then after that they're off for 4 weeks.
I'd imagine if the rates remain low, then after this first block of fixtures finish, then Western Australia and South Australia might open up, and then what do you think? Do you reckon the Brisbane team should be forced to move?
Yeah, well, it's not
there or not?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the inequities of the fixture a fair bit before all this, but obviously. Yeah, I mean, the teams that benefit, obviously, are Brisbane and probably Geelong more than anyone else. Gold Coast probably as well. So, yeah, it's not fair that those teams have to move away for 4 weeks together as well. They're not coming back home. They're away for 4 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
A lot of them probably away from their family and kids as well. I wouldn't imagine all those members would be able to come to the hub. So, yeah, I think it's probably only fair that they do get a block of 4 weeks in their home state at some stage, whether that's in 2 months or at the back end of the regular season.
Yeah, like you'd expect other teams to travel there. Yeah. They can just have 4 games in a row at home. Yeah.
So Brisbane, for example, would need to be away from Queensland for 4 weeks. Same with Richmond, all these other teams, Geelong as well.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they've done a good job at trying to make it as even as possible. In the end, it's not going to be as even. Yeah, because you can't. But I think even if those states do ease on their restrictions, I think it's fixtured in a way where Port Adelaide and Adelaide, they could come home after a game in this block and then still play a home game and then travel again, depending on what the states do. But they'll have to catch the same flight. I think that's one of the...
probably share the same hotel as well.
I don't think if they do travel if they do travel together, then it's a fly-in, fly-out on the same day you play.
Okay.
So that's what the Kangaroos and Essendon have to do on Sunday week. So they have to catch one flight.
Red eye?
Not the red eye. So they're playing on Sunday. Kangaroos play on Sunday 1 and Essendon at 3 p.m. So they have to catch the morning flight together. So one team's going to be at the front half of the aircraft and the other team at the back. And then so Essendon will get there a bit early, and then Kangaroos will have to wait around after they finish their game. Okay. And then they both travel to the airport and catch the same flight, and then they swap ends when they come back for some reason. I don't know why.
So what do you think? The front or the back of the plane? What would you do? You prefer the front on the way there or on the way back?
If you crash, if you're at the back, you have a better chance of surviving. But I don't think it matters.
It's not going to be good for. It's not going to help your recovery in any way. Yeah. I would have thought.
I think finishing earlier and Kangaroos hanging around until Essendon finish, it might help Kangaroos players recover a bit better because they can do their recovery session and ice baths and stuff.
Yeah, straight away.
But then the flip side is that we don't have that extra couple of hours to get onto the ground and warm up and things like that as freely, whereas Essendon do. So
obviously the breaks aren't going to be. You're not going to get 6-7 day breaks. You might get 5 day breaks twice in a row. Yeah, it's just going to be I guess wait and see approach for the next 4 weeks, and then fixture obviously hasn't been released past week 7, week 6, week 5. Yeah, so we don't know what that's going to look like. Yeah, probably just depends on how the health situation's going anyway.
Yeah, so we talked a bit about which clubs it benefits and disadvantages last time we did this. Yeah, so do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think Lion and Cats are probably the most obvious ones. I think Crows and Port for next week, so round 2, I think they're definitely benefited from that because they at least get to play the showdown. And I think pretty much, it probably leads on to the announcement yesterday that the MCG made with the 6 tenants. So that's Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, Hawthorn, D's and Tigers. So they're going to receive home game payments between 150 to 200k this year. Sort of like an early Christmas present, I guess, because they weren't expecting anything with no crowds. So I'd probably say
where's this money coming from? Is it just on the MCG?
Yeah, from the MCG.
That must be loaded. Man.
Yeah, so not sure what it is. I think it's...
What is it? Advertising? I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be more advertising revenue because you get to... I guess there's no crowd, so you'll pretty much see the advertising boards across the ground more than you'll see spectators. So maybe that's the reason. Extra promotion there, but those 6 teams have probably benefited the most, at least financially anyway.
What about the other teams, the more struggling clubs?
So they're working on something similar for Marvel, the Marvel Stadium tenancy or Roos.
Does the AFL own that?
Yeah. So I think that's maybe as of a year ago or 2 ago.
I think so.
Should change the name of the stadium, but that's another topic. The Saints and the Dogs. So the Blues and Bombers are tenants of both grounds. So I'd like to think both of those wouldn't get payments from both grounds. Haven't heard anything about the interstate clubs as well. So hopefully it's not just the MCG tenants which are benefiting from this, because I'd say, Carlton, Collingwood wouldn't need the extra money compared to the Roos or Saints who have debt.
Yeah. Kangaroos, I don't know if we have debt, but we're like one of the...
Yeah, we're not a powerhouse club.
Yeah. So. But don't you think because of this equalisation and the Robin Hood strategy, like taxing the higher clubs to pay, that sort of balance itself out a bit? Like even if the Richmonds and Pies get all this money, like some of it will come out and the AFL will take some of it and put it into those smaller clubs, right? Is that how it works?
That's the purpose of the equalisation strategy.
I think it's going to happen anyway.
Well, I think you can probably add Hawks and Eagles to that as well. They're probably the four most liquid, financially powerful clubs. So hopefully that does happen.
So it might sound like it's an advantage for them, but I think it's a good thing for the AFL.
So we'll move on to... Did you hear about Koshi and Eddie?
No, what they... Another fight?
Another fight, yeah. Koshi is getting in fights with everyone these days. So, want to get your thoughts, because my thoughts are obviously biased, just about the prison bars. So,
just my opinion on how it looks.
Not how it looks. If we should be allowed to wear them. So, I think there was an agreement back in 2007 that we get to wear it for all Heritage Round games. But I think Heritage Round...
it's phased out.
Phased out. So, obviously, I think we wore it in the Richmond final back in 2014. So
when Trent Cotchin picked
the wrong side. I think first 8 or 9 goals.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching that. They had a karate.
So you always go with the wind if you win the toss because you never know what's going to happen to the wind later on in the game, because it might disappear.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the worst decisions ever made. So, I think they should be allowed to wear it in showdowns. Now, I understand not wearing it the whole season. Collingwood are in the AFL first. What do you think about that? I know you're a big fan of Eddie.
I don't know. I don't really have an opinion. So, I reckon just Port can wear whatever they want if it's their home game.
Unless it's against Collingwood? Or
no, if it's their home game, they should, of course.
Okay,
that should be
stronger than me then. Okay.
That should be the rule. Like, Richmond had to wear their away strip in that grand final a couple of years ago.
Against Adelaide. But wasn't that because Adelaide finished first?
Yeah. So that's why. So if it's your home game, you should have the right to wear whatever jumper you want. And Collingwood or any other club just should have a proper clash jumper.
Yeah, Collingwood have never done that. So
yeah, they have it.
They're above everyone else.
Yeah, so that's an easy one there.
So move on to your.
What about can we get back to that home ground advantage thing? So Geelong, they're playing. We could talk about this in the previews as well, but no, we'll just mention it now. Yeah. So they play Hawthorn at GMHBA Stadium, formerly known as Guild.
Yeah,
Shell Park. Stadium.
Yeah, we got all the names there. Cardini was the original.
Yeah. So that's because Hawthorn, because there's no crowd. That's pretty much why, because otherwise they would be playing at the MCG. Yeah. So do you think that's fair that when there are crowds like Hawthorn can play Geelong in an away game at their home ground at the MCG? Yeah,
I mean, this season obviously becomes a 17-round regular season, so you play everyone once, so you don't get the chance to make up that second game because Geelong Hawthorn's, if not the biggest rivalry in footy, probably top 3. So they always play at the MCG. So it's not going to happen this year, but I do agree.
It's a financial thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a financial thing and a health one as well. Because you'd like to think you could probably push it back in 3 or 4 months' time when there are maybe crowds allowed, but I don't think there'll be 50,000, 100,000 crowds.
I think what I'm trying to say is, like, if in a regular season, if it's a Geelong home game, should they play at all their home games like Cardinia Park?
Well, that's what they're lobbying for. I think that'll happen.
So the money, because they get more revenue through the gate if they play at the MCG. Yeah. Okay, so it's like a balancing act, you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, without COVID, I don't think they have, maybe it's 9 games at Skilled, 9 home games, and then the other 2 are at MCG.
Yeah, I think they have to, even like MCG tenants have to play games at Marvel Stadium because that's just how the contracts work,
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I think, I don't know. Because you think there'll be any crowds this regular season anyway?
Oh, GWS allowed 350 supporters into their corporate boxes.
350?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's...
What, you don't think they have that many? Is that why you looked at me like that?
You're going to get me lynched by some GWS supporters. No,
it's the family of the players. Yeah, family and friends.
350, okay. So maybe there will be. Because I don't think there's going to be... Like, you're not going to get... I mean, Geelong Hawthorn game in a regular season on Easter Mondays normally at least 80 to 90,000. Mm-hmm. Are you going to have an 80 to 90,000 crowd available at all this season? Probably not, right?
No.
I mean, hopefully so, but...
Probably not. Maybe towards finals we can get half that at the MCG. But it'll be logistically impossible. Like, you're going to have to get people in at a certain time and out at a certain... stagger that.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe the solution to it. I mean, they play it twice anyway in the regular season. Well, you don't know what's going to happen with the fixture next year. Is it still going to be 17 games or 23?
Next year?
Is it? We don't know.
I think Gill's leaning towards the
17?
normal. No, I think...
normal?
Because he's going to go back to the full-time game, like 25 minutes in time on. Okay. Instead of the 16 and a half at the moment. Yeah. Just an update on that. So they're going to keep that for the remainder of the year, which is fair.
Yeah.
Because since we've already had a round,
I agree.
It'll be unfair. And then we're going to keep the 4 players on the bench. What do you think? Keep it like that?
Yeah.
Because they were contemplating putting 6.
No, you got to keep it like that. I mean, if you do that, you might as well just wipe out round 1. Because you can't have a rule for one round and then change it midway.
Okay.
I mean, there's been enough changes for the rounds 2 to 17 enough to do that. So
yeah, no, that's fair. And also, what do you think of the cardboard cutouts idea from clubs? It's a bit creepy, yeah?
Yeah, it's... I mean, to be fair, I didn't like the idea of the rugby league. And the rugby league obviously started last week, and they did...
Did you watch any of that, or did you
didn't watch any of it. No. I know the results, just because there's no other sport, but I was a bit sceptical about whether the crowd noise would work.
The can noise?
Yeah, the can noise, yeah. But it actually...
apparently it was good. I heard it was good.
Watching the highlights, it sounded okay. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is something similar. It doesn't sound good, but it will work. I think we just got to see how it goes.
Yeah, I heard Mitch Robinson on the radio commenting on that. He was asked if he'd like it or not, and he said no. So I think the players are happy with just silence, and I prefer the silence as well, to be honest.
Well, you hear more communication. You hear
a lot of swearing.
Yeah, you do.
A lot of panting.
So you probably can't get the players mic'd up, but yeah, we'll see.
All right, do you want to move on to the draft?
Yeah, your pet.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, I was bored and I watched... this is before you asked me if you wanted to do the pod, so it turned out pretty well. So it was Team Brown versus Team Dell. So this is the best... Oh, not the best. It was just 44 players, under 17 players playing against each other.
When was it? After the carnival?
This was the curtain raiser for the grand final.
AFL grand final?
Yeah, it was at the MCG. Yep. So it had a lot of academy players. So I think the recruiters get to select who they want to see play in this game. So these aren't necessarily the best 44 players, but there were sort of good players playing as well. So I think the commentators talked it up a bit too much. I know their job is to promote the game and create excitement, but...
Was it Fox Footy?
It was Fox Footy, yeah. Okay. So they had Cal Toomey, Kevin Sheehan on, so they were pretty good, but the actual commentators, and some of them didn't even know the names. They just commentate and the ball goes to the forward pocket and the blue team takes a mark. It's come on, tell me the player's name. So I was like...
Well, that's why you need Shifter and Cal on there, because they know all
the
players back to front.
So as the game went on, I got familiar with most of the players, and I was checking what number they were.
So who was number 16?
Gavin Brown.
Okay.
No. Okay, so
any players that you I guess didn't know about and found out they were good prospects?
Well, I didn't know about. Okay, I'd have to scroll down my list here.
Okay.
I knew most of them. Okay, the player that I was going to mention isn't here, but off the top of my head, there was a guy called Morris. I think Blake Morris. He was pretty impressive. He was a defender, and I didn't know about him. Yeah. So I've got 5 listed here that I did know about. But Blake Morris was pretty good. He was a defender for one of the teams, and he started off a bit slow, but as the game went on, he got more comfortable. Yeah. He was taking intercept marks and just rebounding pretty efficiently out of defense. Reminded me a lot of Dylan Grimes from Richmond. Okay. Looked a little bit like that too. A bit
good closing speed.
Yeah, good speed, good reach. I think it's a bit shorter than him, so he might have to grow a little bit. I think he's about 190 centimeters, so might be good third defender. But he's sort of a developing player.
So that was the test. So you've definitely watched it, Sean.
Yeah, I watched all.
I believe you now. Is anyone else that you got excited about?
The standout was probably the best on ground, Braden Campbell. So he's a 179 centimeter half forward midfielder, and he was amazing. Everything he touched was pretty good. He didn't have that much of the ball, maybe about equivalent to about 20, 22 possessions in a normal game, because these games were a bit shorter. Okay. So he kicked 3 goals from 14 touches, and his goals were amazing. There were snaps, and he had seconds or less than a second to think about a couple of those shots, and he just flushed the ball and nailed them each time. He's got a good, accurate left foot, and he's pretty quick as well. So he's a Sydney Academy prospect, so similar to Heaney and those sort of guys. Yeah, so at the moment I'd say he's looking like a top 5 pick.
Okay, so what would you think his best position would be?
He'd probably start off as a forward pocket. Yeah. And then he could probably move into the midfield.
But he's probably best used up forward just to make use of his skill.
Yeah, it's very dynamic.
A bit like Heaney. Yeah. Heaney's going to play as a forward this year, would have thought so.
Yeah, probably not as mercurial as someone like Robbie Gray, but he's sort of that dynamic small. Another player that was pretty good was Schofield for one of the teams. So
thank you for mentioning him.
Schofield, he wasn't like one of the best on the ground, but whenever he got the ball, he did something good with it.
Yeah.
So he's a father-son prospect for Port Adelaide. And he was, pretty nippy and pretty quick. He looks pretty quick. So he's a smaller type again, 178 centimeters. So
it's a bit like his dad then.
Yeah, what kind of footballer was it Will Schofield?
Jared Schofield. Yeah, so he played for, I think it was West Coast or Freo before he came to us. And then he was a real line breaker. So in the grand final...
Was he a midfielder?
Yeah. Yeah, so in the grand final, there were shorter rotations. So he got used in the last half, and he pretty much ran all over the line. But...
So he was one of the best on ground that...
No, in the last quarter, when the Lions' legs were tired, he got brought on for that tactic.
So it's hard to say when they'll get picked up, but he's a bit shorter, so you'd think he might be more likely to slip into the second round, like your other father-son prospect did, I think.
Yeah.
Jamara Ugelhagen. So this guy's touted as potential number one pick. So he's another academy player for the Dogs. Mind you, I've only seen this game, but he wasn't as impressive as what's been talked up. So I'm sure he's had games.
Not the games,
amazing. But
where was he playing? What position?
Bit of everywhere. He started off forward a bit, and then he got switched down back, and then I saw him running through the middle and the wing and stuff as well. He's good at ground level, but below his knees, and he's pretty smart. Whenever he got the ball, he did something good. There was a couple of good tap-ons he did.
Yeah.
His kicking needs a bit of work because he was I think most of his kicks were pretty bad. So, but he's got a really good field kick.
Yeah, so one of the best in the league.
If he wants to live up to that comparison, then he needs to sort of improve his kicking a bit.
Yeah.
Another player that was good was a guy called Eddie Ford. So this guy started off with a bang. So his first quarter he was best on ground in the first quarter. 8 touches around the half forward area. Kicked 2 goals. Both of them were snaps, I think, and they were pretty good.
Yeah.
So, he's a good height. I think he's 185 centimeters. And, it's a mercurial half forward. So, could be like that Rosie sort of type.
Yeah.
So,
you never know. I mean, these guys could easily have a great spurt. He could go from 185 to 190.
That's a great unknown about this draft,
that's the
isn't
thing,
it?
You don't know.
So,
they're still in an age where they can still grow.
Some players can stagnate. Some players can, bolt. So, do you think this is a good year to trade your first rounders, second rounders, or what would you do? Keeping in mind that they might have a round robin sort of competition towards the end of the year, just to compare each other.
Yeah, I think if you have someone tied to you as a academy prospect that you're really keen on, then I wouldn't trade. But if you're not sure, if you don't have someone in mind, then that's probably the option you'd go with. But I mean, with the Roos, for example, when you're not really in the rebuilding stage, you're probably a little bit ahead of that. What would you guys do?
Yeah, good question. A month ago, I would have said to hold on to your first rounders because we do have 2 of them this year. But now, if there are superstars from other teams that want more money, and then we've got the cap space and the currency to trade for them, I wouldn't be against trading.
But you wouldn't trade 2 of them. You'd want to keep 1.
Could be a year where you can trade out of the first and second round and then just have 4 or 5 selections in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. So you could, because with the unknowns this year, you could find those Dane Swan, Sam Mitchell types at the ladder, and Robbie Gray types in that part of the draft. So, and if you can guarantee you're getting a superstar, if you can trade for a DeGoey or Brad Crouch or someone, then you know what you're getting. It's less risky than going into the draft with a high pick, which could end up
if you're a player or 2 away, then it makes it. That's painful for me still. Best hands in the league, not best hands in the league. One of the best hands and one of the worst shots in on the league.
Yeah. So.
Oh god. You've thrown me now.
It's a blast.
He was a number 8 pick too. So Sean Burgoyne. So it got 3 picks for him. So it was Butcher, Andrew Moore, and Pittard. Yeah. And Pittard was the one. Moore did all right for a few years there, but Butcher never made it. You want to move on to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, sure.
I know you tuned into that very diligently.
Yeah, I did. So On Monday, who was it? It was
John Kennedy went to legend status.
On Monday. Yeah.
Maybe Tuesday.
Okay.
I clearly didn't follow the day.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Hawk.
Also, there was a Sydney player, wasn't there?
Aaron Phillips. I shouldn't be saying it. Aaron Phillips' dad.
Yeah.
Son of Aaron. Phillips? Yeah, Graham Phillips. You know his stats?
Is it Graham? I don't know. Thought it was Graham. I don't know. Who cares?
You throw me again. So his stats. I think it's 8 or 9 premierships, 444 games.
444.
Came to the VFL for 3 years. Came third in the BNF.
Yeah. For Port, yeah.
Yeah. Played centre half.
Port Adelaide Magpies.
Played Magpies, yeah. So he played centre half back for 3 years too. Like his resume is just unbelievable. Obviously a few others. Dean Cox, Simon Black, obviously was inducted last year, but he had the Australian Survivor. Jonathan Brown.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Brown.
Yeah, Jonathan Brown
as well. Yeah, they're probably the main ones from our era.
Yeah, so it's coming to that stage when players that we remember are getting inducted. Yeah, so it's very relevant. It was a bit quirky how Brown and Black got in during these times where a lot of protests going on for people of colour. So I thought that was a bit that was interesting.
It worked out. Yeah, and then so what do you think, Greg Phillips? Greg Phillips. I shouldn't have got his name.
I think Graham Corns. I was getting confused.
Graham Corns. Yeah. So I'll ask you a question while you're.
Yeah, go.
Flipping through. So you think Duck? So Duck's in the Hall of Fame at the moment.
Okay.
Obviously, you need to be in the Hall of Fame first before you get elevated to legend status.
Yeah.
So do you think you should be elevated to legend status?
How long do you have to be in it before you can get elevated? Normally they're old, yeah. Normally you see them, they're like 70 plus.
Yeah, well, John Kennedy's, I guess, you would have thought he'd be a legend a few years after he got inducted. But you think Carey's off-field misdemeanors? He's right?
Maybe that's why he's doing all this media stuff.
Well, he's a prominent. Like he's on Triple M, he's on Channel 7.
It's a tactic.
You think he's redeemed his image to the point where he should get elevated? Because he's been quite apologetic. He's taken accountability. He's not.
Yeah. No, I think he's definitely turned his life around. Yeah. So he's not like, what he used to be. So I think he's getting closer and closer. Whether it'll happen next year or the year after, I don't know. I think any year where you induct a legend, they're going to be a superstar, right?
Yeah.
So, and can you only induct one a year or something?
I think it's one a year. Look, they might increase it. I mean, it was a good talking point this week because obviously there's nothing to talk about with football not on this week. So, I mean, it's interesting. I was watching Fox Footy the other day and they were talking about, obviously Brisbane, the top 4 was a Black, Voss, Lappin and Luke Powers next, and Ackermann, sorry. So they had all 4 of those. They got, obviously...
Are they in it?
Yeah, they're all in it. So Luke Powers next. They're talking about Hawks, obviously with their era, Geelong, maybe Richmond as well. So it's interesting to match them up and see who gets inducted. Yeah. Gary Ablett, that's been a talking point for, I guess, since he retired, whether he should be even in the Hall of Fame. He's not in the Hall of Fame at the moment.
He's not. He probably should get in, yeah. I think at some point, like, time heals, right? So people are going to remember them for what they did on the footy field and less about what they did off it. So
you know what happened with him, right?
He was with the lady and then she died in the hotel.
I mean, look, I don't know I wasn't there obviously, so don't mistake me. But I mean, but I guess the story from her dad anyway is that they were on a 5-day bender and she's idolised Gary because she's a Geelong supporter. So obviously any Geelong supporter would think of him as probably God. And then I think she was quite young as well, and she did pass away of a drug overdose. So I mean, he never went to jail for it, Gary, so he's never been convicted of anything, but I think a lot of people feel like he should be punished in that way for it. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe Duck gets the nod next year.
Yeah, we'll see. Do you want to talk a bit about the upcoming round? I mean, we can do this. We might do a couple of games today and then do a couple in a week's time. So maybe the first game, Collingwood versus Richmond. So,
what do you think about the start date too? I haven't asked you about that. Whether it should have been on Thursday
tossing up between this game and the Neil Danaher Big Freeze for Queen's birthday, Collingwood versus Melbourne. I would have gone for the Collingwood versus Melbourne game, to be honest.
Just for that reason?
Yeah, for the Neil Danaher thing.
So they're doing, so each club's nominating one person to do the slide at the club. So at the club's premises.
They're not doing it. Okay. Ben Brown's been selected for the Kangaroos.
Yeah.
I would have gone for someone a bit less dangly and...
dangly?
Yeah, I just did the injury thing. Yeah.
Pollock?
No, he's got bad feet.
He does have bad feet.
Maybe someone who's durable, who can like...
Huntington?
No, he's been battered up.
Higgins.
Maybe I don't know. Who's the most durable?
Goldstein.
Maybe McMillan. Someone disposable. Yeah. Or McDonald. What about from Port Adelaide? Who would you go with?
Someone disposable. Maybe Wyeth.
Oh, that's controversial.
No. I think Boak or Robbie Gray's
Boak, he's a bit old.
No, but they're the stalwarts.
Stop that.
Then you go Rosie then.
Broadbent? Is he still playing?
No, he got delisted.
Maybe re-list him. Make him do
just because you ran into him at the pub one time in Europe. Oh, no.
Who was that?
It was Broadbent. No, it was Ben. Ben ran into him. I thought it was you.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, who are you tipping for this game?
Well, as a rule, I think it'll be hard to not tip for interstate games.
Yeah.
Hard not to tip the home teams.
Yeah.
But this is a boat team home game. I don't know, toss of a coin. I think Mason Cox isn't playing, but then Alex Rance isn't either. So.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe Collingwood, I reckon.
Yeah, well, they're probably the most informed. I know they're second on the ladder, but they're the most informed team.
They had a good game against
the Dogs. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a toss of a coin. I think Collingwood have matched up well against Richmond in the past.
Yeah.
So I'd be going for Collingwood just because I think Richmond, they might start off a bit slow, but then they'll get going towards the middle half
the season,
the end of the year.
Well, they've already got a win in the bank anyway, which means more this season than anyone else, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's good to come up against a good team first up rather than?
Yeah, I'd probably say no. I'd probably say a couple of weeks down the track.
For what?
To play the good teams, yeah, because you wouldn't have had even an intra-club match to tune up for this match.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
yeah. I listened to another podcast and they were actually saying the opposite. They were saying it'd be better to face a good team because when, like the other podcast was saying, if you play a lower ranked team first up, then it could be a danger game where they could get you. Like Melbourne versus Carlton.
Yeah.
Like you'd expect Melbourne to win, but Carlton might.
Pip them,
whereas if you play a hard team now, your players might not be 100%.
Yeah.
So they might, even if you lose, it might not matter as much. But then again,
that's a fair point.
Yeah. From the other point of view is that if you can win it when the other team is not playing well, then it might be an advantage.
I bank him, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do a showdown in the Roos game next week.
Yeah, maybe do you want to touch on the Brisbane Freo game?
In Brisbane 15, it feels weird to say that because they did lose, didn't they?
Yeah, but now they have a home game against the Dockers.
Yeah, I don't think Hogan is back.
I think he's going to travel, but he might not play.
So I'd still lean towards the Lions. I couldn't see them going.
Because they're pretty fit, aren't they? They haven't got any injuries.
Yeah, Lions don't have much injuries. I think this season suits them more than anyone else. Plenty of young bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It probably just depends on Fife, I guess. Fife and Walters. I mean, at the moment, they're the two keys without Hogan.
Yeah,
if they perform.
I think, Pierce is still out and Hamling might be a chance.
Yeah.
And Mundy might come in. But up forward, they're not, without Hogan there, they're a little bit one-dimensional. Yeah, cool. So we can do the other games maybe for our next podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, wrap it up. We'll see you guys next week. With
Thanks for listening.
Few days left till round 2.
Yep.
See you guys.
Bye.